All right, today we're diving into something that's changing one of the most basic things we do as humans: talk to each other. I'm talking about AI and how it's starting to just erase language barriers in real time. The whole idea of a universal translator, from sci-fi, it's becoming a reality. So let's break down how it's all happening and what it really means for us.
You've been there, right? I know I have. You're in a totally new country, you're just trying to order a coffee or find the train station, and then bam, you hit that language wall. It's that super awkward dance of pointing, making weird hand gestures, and just praying the other person has some idea what you're trying to say.
Well, get this. That whole frustrating experience, it might be on its way out, for good. There's a huge technological shift happening right now that promises to solve this ancient problem. And the best part? It's all happening on that little device you've got in your pocket right now.
Okay, so to really get why this is such a big deal, we got to take a step back. Let's do a quick trip down memory lane and see just how far we've come in the world of translation.
For the longest time, the only real option was a human interpreter. And that's great for like the UN or big business meetings, but for the average person on vacation, not so much. Then we got paper. Piles of it. You had those big chunky dictionaries and little phrase books, which meant you were just desperately flipping through pages trying to find the right word. Then came the 2000s and the first apps, which were cool, but you still had to stop, pull out your phone, and type everything in.
So what's the bottom line here? All of these methods were slow and super clunky. Communication just took a ton of effort, a lot of patience, and yeah, some pretty wild hand gestures just to get the simplest ideas across. And that brings us to right now, to today, and a huge breakthrough from Google that is set to completely change the game for real-time conversations. So here it is. Google is rolling out something called live translation in the Google Translate app for Android. Now, it's a beta feature, which just means they're still putting the final touches on it. But the idea behind it is so simple and honestly kind of mind-blowing. Imagine someone is talking to you in a different language, and you just hear the translation in your earbuds instantly. And we're not talking about just a handful of languages here. No way. Right from the start, this thing supports over 70 languages. 70! That just opens up the door for real, seamless conversations in so many places all over the globe. Okay, so you're probably wondering, how on earth does this actually work? What's the magic behind the curtain that makes it all so smooth? Let's pop the hood and take a look. The secret sauce here is something called Gemini. That's Google's super advanced AI model, and it's the engine driving this whole thing. Now, this is not your old-school clunky translator that just swaps one word for another. No, Gemini is way smarter. It's built to actually understand context, It gets the idioms, the little nuances of how people really talk. It blends text and speech translation all in one go. And this really gets to the heart of what they're trying to do. See, Google doesn't just want to throw words at you. They want to give you the feeling of the conversation. The goal is for the AI to keep the speaker's original tone, their rhythm, their emphasis, so it doesn't sound like a monotone robot, but like an actual person talking. So here's how the magic trick works, step by step. First, your phone's microphone just picks up what the other person is saying. Then that audio gets zipped up to the cloud. That's where the powerful Gemini AI does all the really hard work, figuring it all out and translating it. And then, boom, the translated audio is sent straight back to your earbud. And this whole thing happens in like the blink of an eye. It's crazy fast.
Now this next part is maybe the most important bit of all, the real game changer. You do not need to go out and buy some special expensive earbuds for this. Nope, because all that heavy-duty AI stuff is happening up in the cloud. It works with any standard earphones, the ones you already have. This is what makes it so incredibly accessible to, well, pretty much everyone.
Now, it's worth pointing out that Google isn't the only player in this game. Of course not. So let's zoom out a little and see how this new feature stacks up against the competition. So if we look at this little showdown here, you can see the big tech companies are all taking slightly different paths. Look at Apple. Their approach is all about their ecosystem, right? You need AirPods for it to work. Microsoft is more app-based, kind of like Google. But here's where Google's strategy really pops. First, the hardware. Any standard earphone works. That's huge for accessibility. Then, the languages. Launching with over 70 is a massive head start. So the big picture is this. Apple is going for that tight, seamless integration within its own world, while Google is making a big bet on being open, accessible, and working at a massive scale.
All right, so let's bring this all home. What does this really mean for you and me? What are the ripple effects of a technology like this on how we actually connect with people around the world?
Okay, so let's quickly wrap up the most important things to remember. First, the brain behind this whole operation is Google's Gemini AI. It's all about understanding natural conversation, not just translating words. Second, and this is a really big deal, it's super accessible. It works with the standard earphones you probably already have. This is a gigantic leap forward from flipping through a phrasebook. And finally, when you look at the competition, you see that Google is really carving out its niche by being open and aiming for massive integration.
And that leaves us with one last, kind of huge question to chew on. Think about it. For all of human history, language has been one of the biggest walls between people. But now, that wall is starting to crumble. Not just in text messages, but in real-time, face-to-face conversations. So, as that happens, how is our world going to change? Our cultures, our own personal connections? What kind of amazing new things become possible when we can truly understand anyone, anywhere? Definitely something to think about.